All right, the meeting of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Planning Board for Monday, November 6, 2023 at 7:30 PM is called to order. Announcement is made that adequate notice of this meeting has been given and that it is being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 et sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Didich.
Here.
Councilman DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Mealy.
Here.
Mr. Meth.
Present.
Mr. Napolitano.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Stanziel.
Here.
Mr. Von Aiken.
Here.
Chairman Dinsmore.
Here.
We have our board planner, Ms. Winter, our board engineer, Mr. Canjiano, and our board attorney, Ms. Steinbeck.
Excellent. If we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
That's difficult.
Yeah. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting is open to the general public. Is there anyone here who wants to speak to this board on a matter that is not on tonight's agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move right to some of the correspondence. We received correspondence from Larry Cali of Cali Law LLC requesting application 23:511 be carried to December 18th. Is there anyone here who wish to attend for the Sir Parsippany Jefferson LLC application, also known as 23:511? All right. They have requested that we move this meeting from tonight to December 18th. Do I have a motion to that effect? Somebody willing to move that we...
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Meth. Do I have a second?
Second. Paul Turner.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so if anyone is here for that particular case, this is your only notice that it has been moved to December 18th. All right, now,
And that date is locked in?
the other thing that I should have included in that motion was that they want to have us act on the applicant consented to extending our time to December 31st, so we don't have to do anything. Good, okay. It's been a while since I've done that. Our next item is resolution for application 23-522 and applications 23-515 and 23-517. If everybody has the material prepared by our clerk on who can vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I make a motion for application 23-522?
Yes, sir.
I motion to approve resolution for application 23:522, Raffanello Group, 1915 Route 46, blocks 454, Lot 2. Minor site plan with C variance for parking and signage.
Do we have a second?
Second, Didich.
All right, Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Didich.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Von Aiken.
Yes.
There's a Dinsmore at the end of that.
Oh, yes, there is a Dinsmore. There is.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes. All right. We have two more resolutions, and Nora, Marina will have to explain some changes.
So today we received a few additional edits to the draft resolutions. For both of the resolutions on page 9, paragraph 57, the language will be changed to state that the entry was relocated from the south to the west, not the east to the south. And then just for the 3 campus resolution, page 3, paragraph 3, the 2 campus project was mislabeled as 3 campus, so I have changed that. On page 3, paragraph 4, I have modified the language to say that the residents of 2 campus would be afforded access to the swimming pool and additional amenities at 3 Campus Drive. And then paragraph 4, page 7, paragraph 7. page 4, paragraph 7. The zone for 3 campus is AHD-3B, not 3A.
Are
So
there any
just minor.
questions on the changes that our attorney has put into the resolution? All right. Do I have somebody willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move the motion to approve applications 23-515 and 23-517, Avalon Bay
We
Community.
should, our attorney is suggesting we do these separately.
Separate one?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do one at a time then.
Yep.
So I move the motion to approve application number 23-515, Avalon Bay Communities, Inc., 2 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.2, 4 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.2, 1633 Littleton Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.1, amended preliminary and final major site plan with C variance for construction of a multifamily building with surface parking facilities, indoor and outdoor amenities, and landscaping.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mealy.
Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Tedich?
Yes.
DePiero?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Napolitano?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Von Aiken?
Yes.
Dinsmore?
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve application number 23-517's resolution?
All right, I'll make the motion, since no one else is jumping up.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Von Aiken.
Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Tedich?
Yes.
DePiero?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Napolitano?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Von Aiken?
Yes.
Dinsmore?
Yes. All right. Now, we'll move on to other business. Well, actually, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to move up, application number 23:528 QBL, New Jersey, 60 East Halsey, LLC, 60 East Halsey Road, Block 737, Lot 10, major soil moving permit, so that we can get you out of here.
Well, thank you very much.
Not that we dislike you.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Berger. I'm with the law firm of Cole Schatz. I'm here representing the applicant. We have received site plan approval for expansion of the parking lot by application number 20-508. This application is we are intending to go ahead with construction, and it was then determined that there's a need to get a soil movement permit. So the permit requested is for 932 cubic yards of soil. So it was during the course of this review that it was determined that was needed. I have our engineer here to explain the cubic yards of soil that has to be removed. Would you like to have her sworn in?
Please do.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide the board with some background on your experience and licensure.
Certainly. My name is Nikki Louloudis. That's spelled Louloudis. I'm a senior project manager with Bowman Consulting at 6 Campus Drive here in Parsippany. I've been a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey since 1993. My license is active and current, and I was also the engineer that appeared before this board for the original amended site plan approval back in 2020.
And could you tell the board what's proposed, why there's a need for a soil movement permit?
As part of the original approval, we are expanding a parking lot for the existing site, and we have an additional impervious coverage of over a quarter of an acre. Therefore, we have to comply with the New Jersey stormwater management rules that were in effect at the time, and that included an underground storage basin, additional piping, additional inlets, an outlet control structure, a water quality structure. So with all of that, we are triggering the major soil moving permit. We're over 100 cubic yards. We're at 932. We did the calculations. We provided a plan. We split it up into the different aspects for excavation. The biggest one, obviously, being the underground detention basin. It's made up of 36-inch pipe, requires at least 2 feet of cover. We do have some areas, minor areas that we're filling in the new parking lot, but that balance, that net is still 932 cubic yards that need to be taken off site.
And the underground drainage, that was all approved as part of the site plan approval.
That is correct.
All right. Do we have some questions by members of the board on this?
No, we have the engineer's report on that. He approves it, recommends it.
I understand.
So I'll make a motion.
We're not quite there yet.
Why not?
If there are no members of the board that have questions on this testimony at this time, is that your case?
Yes, it is.
Are there any members of the public that either have questions or wish to speak in opposition to this case at this time? Hearing and seeing none. In favor of this case at this time? Hearing and seeing none. This closes the evidentiary portion of tonight's case. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Michael, do you have anything to say?
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion?
I'll do it.
I didn't see it, John, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All yours.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve application 23:528.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah, sure. Didich?
Yes.
DePiero?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Neff?
Yes.
Napolitano?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Von Aiken?
Yes.
Dinsmore?
Yes.
I thank you, and I was hoping you'd follow me to all my hearings every month. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
For the
everyone.
evening. Round up today. Michael's got two.
All right. This brings us up now to other business. 7 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.8, area in need of redevelopment. 6 Sylvan Way, or 6 Sylvan, Block 202, Lot 1.9. Master Plan Consistency Review. So I'm going to turn to our planner.
All right. I think we're pretty familiar with this process. So up on the board there, we have 7 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.8. The council directed the planning board via resolution R 2023-130 on September 19th to conduct a preliminary investigation for 7 Campus Drive to determine if the property qualifies as an area in need of redevelopment per the redevelopment law. In order to meet this designation, the property must conform with one of the 8 statutory criteria. So 7 Campus Drive is an approximately 10-acre lot that consists of vacant office building and associated parking and other site improvements. The lot is currently in the SED 10 district, Specialized Economic Development District, which includes current permitted uses such as offices, scientific research labs, fabrication, assembly of products, processing and warehousing facilities, digital data storage warehouses. I conducted a site visit on September 19th. Photos begin on page 15. While there, I observed an active flooding situation, as well as evidence of leaks, mold, multiple points of entry for vermin. The exterior of the building exhibited deterioration with cracking in the foundations. The parking lot showed extensive cracks, as well as an area that had been excavated and not returned to its original condition. As such, it exhibits some uninhabitable and unsafe conditions that are providing no benefit to the township. Following redevelopment criteria apply. Criteria A, the generality of buildings are substandard, unsafe, unsanitary, dilapidated, or obsolescent, or possess any such characters and are so lacking in light, air, or space as to be conducive to unwholesome living or working conditions. While this building is currently vacant and has been vacant for approximately 18 months, it does not qualify for criteria B, which requires that it be vacant for at least 2 years. So it's about 6 months away from that. However, it does also qualify under criteria D. Its areas with buildings or improvements which by reason of dilapidation, obsolescence, overcrowding, faulty arrangement or design, or lack of ventilation, light, and sanitary facilities, excessive land coverage, deleterious land use or obsolete layout, or any combination of these or other factors are detrimental to the safety, health, morals, or welfare of the community. Additionally, qualifies under criteria H, which is the designation of the delineated area is consistent with smart growth planning principles adopted pursuant to law or regulation. The study area is in the metropolitan planning area of the state plan, which is designated to provide much of the state's future redevelopment. In conclusion, the study area qualifies under criterion A, D, and H. It is my recommendation that the planning board find that the area meets statutory requirements to be found in area in need of redevelopment under the redevelopment law and recommend to the township council as such.
Okay, you've got a board up there and it's pointed to the public and
Oh. So that's just an aerial view of the site. It's also included in the study showing where exactly it is. It's on Campus Drive. It is next to the 3 campus
Yep.
that we are all familiar with.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Nothing, I just love to have it turned where I can see it. Know
Okay,
it.
yeah.
I can do that. You can do that.
There you go.
Thank you.
The general public is helping out.
He's representing them.
Anybody need to see that from the public? Okay. All right, now that we've got it so that we can see it, are there any items that you'd like to point out? For Gordon, you've got,
Well, okay, so I worked in this building up until about 6.5 years ago. Can you tell me a little bit more about this flooding?
So I took a tour of the building, and one of the hallways we walked down, I'm not sure if it was the 2nd or 3rd floor. I guess there was pipe leaking, but there was water pooling in the hallway.
So it's internal to the building?
It's internal. It's
Okay.
not the site per se, but within the building.
Okay.
okay, anything on this particular campus that, I mean, it's got a detention pond and it's got a lot of parking lot.
Parking, there's some underground parking for first level garage parking also.
Mr. Chairman, I tried to look for this. I couldn't remember if this was one of the projects that we had already considered a site plan for.
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so no site plan has been considered. A redevelopment plan would have to be developed prior to anything occurring here on the site.
So our objective tonight is simply to show that we've looked at it and we've determined that it is in need of redevelopment. That's our sole purpose
Yep.
tonight.
It meets the statutory requirements and recommends to council that to be declared an area in need.
All right, are there any members of the board that have questions of our planner at this time? Mr. Napolitano?
Just out of curiosity, a couple things, actually. Number one is, what if they go to, I'm assuming the building will be demolished, and they find that there is a rare eagle living there with a nest. What then what happens? Just out of curiosity, what do we do then?
So, like any site plan application, if something like that comes up, they'll have to follow the regulations involved in that.
Does that mean whatever we approve then it goes out the window, or does it just mean that something happens?
Well, at this point, nothing is approved on there, so, if due diligence is found, it should be found prior to the submittal of the site plan, and they would work around that.
Okay, all right. And the other question I had was, I just need some clarification. A couple meetings ago, we approved an area in need of redevelopment, basically 2 empty lots.
Mm-hmm.
And we said these need to be redeveloped.
Right.
And they were to approve it. This is a building now, so I guess I'm having a hard time in my mind is finding why we're approving areas of redevelopment if they're old buildings against empty lots. And I guess I need clarification as to as a planning board, when we vote, I know we're supposed to take each case individual.
Right.
And everyone is unique to it itself, and I understand that, but, an empty lot or an old building, I mean, an empty lot to me doesn't mean redevelopment, but maybe building does. I guess I'm just trying to figure out the differences there.
Okay, so the way the redevelopment law is set up to help facilitate these lots being developed in a way that is beneficial to the town. As a vacant lot, it's not providing any benefits to the town. As a lot with an existing building that's has issues, whether it's structurally or that's vacant, also not providing much towards the town. So the redevelopment law has created these 8 different criteria
Right? Yep.
to, determine what meets those standards. It comes from the state. Redevelopment's, it's, as you know, it's happened a lot in town, and I guess the question is, why do we keep doing it this way?
Well, and that kind of gets to my question. Sorry if I was interrupting.
Go right ahead.
Because we have plenty of applications that just come in and say, we're just going to demolish the building and replace it with something else.
Right.
They don't require redevelopment in order to make that happen. It seems to me the difference here is once a property gets identified as being able to be redeveloped, then there's kind of a free-for-all on what new zoning and overlays and other things are going to be put in place.
Right.
And I don't like that we then lose control of our zoning in that way, which is an argument I've made plenty of times before. So, why does this area no longer, why is the use that's in this property no longer viable for it? And that's not something I see described.
Right. So, in this case, the owner of the building has tried to rent it out under multiple different situations. I believe they had a school at one point they were looking into. For whatever reason, these things have fallen through. So they've tried, and that's what happens in a lot of these cases. They've tried to stay within the current zoning, use the existing building, and, for whatever reason, market the actual cost to get it up to the level it needs to be occupied. It hasn't happened. This one doesn't quite meet the timeline, but, we can wait 6 months and it probably would still be.
But the difference is, with a lot of the applications, they just come in with a new site plan, ask to knock down the building and put in something new there. Why ask for the redevelopment?
Sometimes it's because the current zoning wouldn't allow for it. It also provides different incentives for financing and how it gets built.
It's actually, in my opinion, a way in which we have more control over it. Because number one, the council has to figure out what they want to rezone it for. Number two, we then have to approve and find consistent with the master plan that new zoning. And number three, if they decided they didn't want to go that route, then they could go to the Board of Adjustment and ask for a use variance. And that,
once we get a redevelopment plan, usually, the zoning board doesn't have any jurisdiction. So a use variance isn't an option. You're really determining, yes, we want X, Y, Z on here, and that's it. And any change to that requires an amendment to the redevelopment plan. So it's a lengthier process. So in some ways, the chairman's right, you have more control.
Okay. As long as when this comes back to us, the overlay zones are written in a way that, gives us that flexibility on the project, on the site plan review.
No idea what is,
I understand that. I'm just laying the groundwork
next step.
based on all of my past experiences and past projections.
I very much get your criticism of this process because I think it's kind of clunky as opposed to being more systematically examining what the actual uses for these particular projects should be. Because you're taking each one at a time. I'm going to use a word here that the lawyer's going to look at me aghast and say, it reminds me a lot of spot zoning. And, but it is a way through that process that doesn't leave us in a position where we have a lot of land not being used.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it definitely goes through a much more thorough vetting, because the council will figure out what they want to do. We've determined there's a problem.
Yeah.
They've determined that there are some uses that they would be comfortable with. Then we've agreed that those uses meet the master plan requirements.
Yeah. And in that way, I agree with your point completely. The council's, it's an elected body by the population of the town. They should have the authority to make these decisions as far as what zoning goes in there, as long as it's consistent with the master plan.
Right. Right, so I agree with it. It's clunky. It's not, to my way, the way I can't say it's not the way we should do it, because we do it this way, but it feels like it really kind of steps back, and instead of looking at the overall town for all of the different properties that should be redeveloped, we're doing them piecemeal. Now, life works piecemeal.
But not every town does it the way that we're doing it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it would be nice if it was given to us differently. That's not our.
But I don't see how that can happen. I really don't.
Oh, we've done enough of these this year.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
So, that's my opinion on that. Any other questions, Mr. Dees?
Yeah, again, for my understanding, so couldn't they have just gone to zoning and said, hey, you want to change this because you want to do something else? Wouldn't that be an easier process, or?
Well, that was what I was suggesting, is that we and the council have far more control over this, because instead of seeing just one board and going to the Board of Adjustment and saying, I want a use variance because I want to put a small family park in there that has Ferris wheels and merry-go-rounds and things, and the Board of Adjustment could say, we'll give you your use variance for that. Instead, the council gets to look at it and see what they think, and then we get to tell them.
Right. So why would the owner try to go through this lengthy process, not just do the adjustment thing?
To be honest with you, in the past, they did.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why I actually think this is a better process.
So I agree
for
with
the
that
town.
from a process perspective, but I'm trying to say, why would anybody want to do that from owner's perspective? From township, we do want to do that.
No, I suspect it has to do with the flexibility to be able to set this up as a new and different zoning requirements. So instead of a new business center, which, as we understand it, commercial spaces for offices are difficult right now. Now they don't have to zone it as an office, they can look at something else.
And on that point, your master plan was done in 2020, so that was before, the office sector really took a dive.
Before COVID, yeah. It was
So-
acknowledged in that master plan that the office sector
toward the
was already a
end.
problem, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if the master plan had perhaps been done a year or two later, in the midst of it, it would have recognized some of this perhaps more. So, timing played into that too.
Any other questions?
I mean, as much as I'm not really, I guess, I'm not really happy that, seems like we're granting areas in need of redevelopment because a property owner didn't fix a pipe or, or like resurface a parking lot. And, I mean, I know you pointed out a bunch of surface cracks, but that's far from a structural analysis to say the building's in jeopardy. But then I also recognize, as our master plan did, saying that we need to find adaptive reuses for office space. I could tell you this office building, having worked in it for like about 8 years, it's vintage 1980s, and the marketplace already didn't like that. All right, so the building is functionally obsolete. I'll agree to that. For that reason, people who want office buildings want LEED buildings, and the demand for office space did take a major nosedive after our master plan was complete, and we already had a high vacancy rate before that. So I mean, I also know that the landowner in this case wasn't really making a lot of concessions on rent, but that's another matter. Because my old company left there a few years ago. But, so I know I'm gonna vote yes because of the obsolescence of the building.
I have another comment if everyone doesn't mind. I know I've said this before in the past, but there's like 1,200 more units going up on this side of town, meaning the west side of town. When does the planning board, the zoning board, the town council, and board of education get together and figure out, where are we gonna fill these kids at 10, 15 years from now? Is there a way we can put something in the notes and say it was suggested at a planning board meeting that the 4 boards need to get together and figure something out? Because we've got a lot of office buildings and we don't have a place to put these kids for schools a couple more years, so. You have a comment on that? On schools? Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
The chairman says so.
Interesting.
I'm an attorney, so, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please approach.
Thank you. My name is Keith Laughlin. I'm an attorney with law firm Inglesino Taylor. Our firm represents the applicant. I just want to tell the board that what our client is proposing here will be warehouse space with absolutely no housing. So I hope that allays your concerns here with regard to this project. It's still obviously in the development stages in terms of what the project's going to look like, but it's going to be warehouse and there will be no housing.
All right, appreciate that. Like I said, there's already 1,200 already approved, so whatever number would have been there wouldn't have mattered. It's still 1,200 that's approved, so, but thank you for that. But no, Mr. Chairman, how do we get the other boards on board with that?
Well,
Is
it's all
DiPiero?
supposed to come through the council.
Yeah.
It has to come to the council. So maybe
has to
Mr.
be-
DiPiero, before, you retire, maybe you can make a mention to that, to the town council, that you recommend all 4 boards get together and figure out the future for our schools, because I'm not got enough room.
Well, you have the courts involved in this too,
Mhm.
right? Round 3, we finished, all right? And they required 800 more affordable housing units.
So it's gonna be 2,000?
Huh?
So that means it's gonna go up to 2,000 units?
No, it's gonna be like,
That's
No.
the 2020 requirement.
No, it's, they can build 4 high income for every low income. Okay, so with 800 affordable housing units, and you're talking about 4 times that, 3,200 high income apartments. So you're talking 4,000 apartments. This is pushed onto us by the courts, all right? When the legislators don't legislate, the courts legislate for them. And that's what this is. And this is round 3.
Round 4 is coming.
The courts don't care about your school children and finding, that's your problem to find room for them. Our problem, all right? And they don't care. So getting together is not gonna help with us dealing with the courts. Round 4 starts in 2025. Now, we're introducing an ordinance at our council meeting next week to other towns doing the same thing, to push out round 4 for 2 years. Instead of 2025, dealing with the courts all over again, it'll be 2027. A lot of towns are adopting this ordinance, and we're gonna be adopting it too, asking them to push it out by 2 years. Asking our legislators to push it out. If the legislators push it out, the courts can't change it.
okay.
I'll see if I can appeal that. One thing that I would suggest, though, is rather than asking Michael to bring it up at the council meeting, is you can show up to the council meeting yourself and bring it forward, because we need more people showing up at our council meetings.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Tadich? Mr. Shaw? Do you have anything, any other questions of any discussion or debate on this motion to, yes? Any comments by the public or any questions by the public on this area in need of redevelopment? Hearing and seeing none. Any further questions by the board or comments? Do I have a motion at this time? Moving that we find that 7 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.8 is an area in need of redevelopment.
I'll make the motion, Meth. I'll make a motion that 7 Campus Drive, Block 202, Lot 3.8 is an area in need of redevelopment based on the analysis of our board planner.
Do I have a second?
Second, Deitch.
Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Tadich.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
Neely.
Yes.
Matt.
Matt, a yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Stanzio.
Yes.
Von Aiken.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes.
All right.
Once I
Now,
make a motion, I couldn't vote no.
6 Sylvan Way?
Already said.
Is that-
Yes, so 6 Sylvan Way is a redevelopment plan. If I can switch up the boards, actually, Keith, would you mind? Just flip that one over, and if you could, I guess, both of them. So the back side of that. Yep, and then if you want to, I guess, we'll put that one up in a little bit. All right, so this is 6 Sylvan Way. As I'm sure you remember, the preliminary investigation, the planning board recommended to the council that it be declared an area in need of redevelopment, which the council passed on August 22nd. So having declared it an area in need, the next step is to develop a redevelopment plan to provide for the orderly redevelopment of the study area. This plan for Sylvan Way redevelopment area, which we have in front of us tonight, is before the planning board for a master plan consistency review. So for a little background, this is an 18.64 acre single lot in the ROL Research Office and Laboratory District. Permitted uses in this zone include offices for professional and medical, research labs, pharmaceutical plants, and banks. The property currently houses a commercial office building, associated parking lots, and a recreation easement in the rear, which hosts the Little League baseball fields. And along the front, you have a creek running along the front of the property. So this redevelopment plan proposes 2 parcels. So this is a little different than the ones we've done so far this year. We have the north parcel, which is that yellow kind of overlay, which includes the ball fields. There is a recreation easement there. And on this parcel, open space and recreation will continue to be permitted, and multifamily residential will also be permitted. It includes, such customary accessory uses for a multifamily parking garage, outdoor amenities, and such. So the south parcel, which is that purple overlay, is going to have 1 permitted use, which would be a luxury health and fitness center. So this is a little different than your typical gym, though it will include many similar features. As defined in the redevelopment plan, it's a facility that provides physical fitness, sports and recreational programs and activities, including but not limited to the use of weightlifting, running, and aerobic exercise equipment, game courts, indoor and outdoor swimming pools, and water slides. Individual and/or group yoga, Pilates, and other fitness classes and programs, day camps, as well as health and wellness services, which may include chiropractic, physical therapy, medical, aesthetic, and massage services, blood draws, wellness, and metabolic assessments, and other like and similar services. Also includes personal services such as hair, skincare, nail salons, day spas, beauty salons, and barber shops. For this use, there are a number of accessory uses that will only be available to members of the fitness facility and residents of the tract. Included in these are indoor and outdoor playgrounds, pools, water slides, food service, retail sales, health and fitness related products, spa treatments, salon, childcare centers, nutritional centers, saunas, steam rooms, locker rooms, sports courts. So on this plan, we've got 2 proposed end users and a conceptual plan. If you mind showing off the conceptual plan here. You just gotta flip it horizontal. Oh. And take it the other way. Give you a general idea. So it's my understanding that Lifetime already has a lease with the property owners. So they're pretty well established to move forward on this particular project. they would be located in that front parcel. They're that luxury fitness center that is described within the plan. This is a conceptual drawing, so, you know, it could change, but this gives you an idea of the general layout of where the buildings would be, where parking would be. It does include a parking garage, pools. As I mentioned before, there's that creek up front, so there are restrictions on where you can build. Same thing in the rear of the property, you have the recreation easement. There will be, you know, no building there. There's also some wetlands too, which put some constraints on where you can actually build. So in writing the bulk standards and in the applicant's development of these plans, they really try to stay within the existing footprint of what's there. So it is predominantly on that parking lot where the building currently exists. So, so a couple things to point out with the bulk standards. In most cases, we've actually made the bulk requirements stricter than what currently exists in the RL zone. And those site constraints play into that. There are increased rear and front yard setbacks for the track as a whole, and the maximum impervious coverage has been reduced, while the building coverage is the same. We've also increased the minimum lot size. So what's currently permitted in the ROL zone is a 5-acre lot. At 18 acres, you can get 3 conforming lots out of this. So right now, the north would allow for 9 acres and the south 8 acres, so pretty much what you're seeing there. There's a lot line divided right on that parking throughway area there. As I said, we've increased the minimum front yard setback for the south parcel, so that would be along Sylvan Way. So instead of having 100 feet, it's now 150 for the actual principal structure. And for the accessory structures like the pool, it is 130. On the rear lot, so the front of the Lifetime parcel is Sylvan Way, and the rear is going to be that property line with the multifamily. So it has its own setback there too. So the rear setback for the Lifetime would be, that's 70 feet. What's existing is currently 40. The same thing with the multifamily site. The rear yard setback's 120, where 40 is currently permitted. We've also require a minimum buffer from the residential area, which is behind those little league fields. So that has a requirement of 100 feet. There's also a required buffer in the, where is it? On the front, where there is no required buffer currently, so that'll be 100 feet also.
That was the height of the building.
The height of the buildings. Excellent. So the existing is 3 stories, 45 feet. We are permitting, this is a place where we are increasing the requirements a bit. So the principal building for the multifamily is allowed 5 stories and 70 feet, and for the fitness club, it would be 3 stories and 50 feet. There's also allowances for garage, the structure garages, which would go up to 80 feet. And as far as the consistency with the master plan, that's on page 80. The most recent master plan in 2020 identifies this area for corporate office and manufacturing. While it encourages retaining those primary uses, it also allows for a range of supporting and complementary uses such as indoor recreation, entertainment, fitness, and multifamily uses. As it's proposed in this redevelopment plan, Further, the master plan encourages redevelopment and infill development of existing commercial and office areas that are vacant or in need of reinvestment. Additionally, this multifamily includes provisions for affordable housing, which will work toward meeting the township's fair share obligation. It is also my understanding that the affordable housing provided here is going to be in lieu of some that was lost in another section of town.
I'm sorry, which part of town did we lose part of our requirements for? No plan has been brought to this board where we lost some of our,
Well, at the Kmart,
spots.
the Kmart building, was supposed to be affordable housing in there.
Yes.
But the owner of the property has decided to take on 2 new stores that want to move in there,
Okay,
so it'll remain stores.
so that project's
So
been
the-
lost.
So the affordable housing unit that we were supposed to get at the Kmart building, we're not getting.
Okay,
It's gonna be made up here.
okay, so this isn't, future 2025 or 27 as you're
No, this-
hoping for?
This is part of our,
It's part of the third round.
our
Okay.
third round, which we just finished.
Okay.
Actually, I do have 2 questions myself. First off, are there any buildings allowed to be this tall in Parsippany?
I was wondering about that.
5
fire.
stories?
Yeah.
We have several 6-story buildings, 1 7-story.
Oh, okay.
The Sheridan,
Okay.
is really 7 stories. And the reason they was our ordinance called for, maximum height, okay, from the curb level. Well, the curb level,
Yeah.
we fixed it later, but.
Oh, good.
But at that point, the curb level was 1 story higher than the ground level where they built the building.
AT&T did that to Madison 50 years ago.
Yeah, so we have 1 7-story and, not Baldwin, Brookside, senior housing is 6 stories. So we do have those, and we do have fire engines that can accommodate that.
Okay, that was where I was going with that. And the second question I have is just how many beds are going to be in this multifamily?
The max is 280. So they are also planning, similar to what we saw with Avalon, to alleviate some of the school children issue with the, sorry,
Park type of housing,
yes, yeah,
right?
When we're worried about where to put the school children, I've suggested several times to the school board, some of the members, and also to the superintendent, who just left, that we have an empty school on St. Christopher's property,
Mhm.
K-8. It's been empty now for, 6, 7, 8 years. I suggested maybe lease that, a 20-year lease or something, or a 15-year lease, from the diocese, the Patterson Diocese, and bring it up to code. It would cost them maybe $500,000 to $1 million to bring it up to code. And then they have a K-8 school. It makes sense to me. They said that it's too expensive to bring it up to code. So they decided to spend $4 million and add on to Littleton School. Instead of under $1 million to renovate an already existing structure that's empty.
Okay, well, I mean, all this does is get us back to where we're supposed to be under all of the court orders that we have.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stanziel?
So with all these, all this housing that's coming in, and typically low-income housing, are there any plans from like New Jersey Transit about public transportation and how to get people to and fro? Because typically, low-income housing in neighborhoods, they kind of work within that neighborhood. What is the plan there? Because there's buses that are in town, but they go to New York.
Well, there are corporations like Nabisco who left this area, and several others, because they couldn't get enough help. They could not get enough custodian and clerk help in these offices.
But they're gone now. So,
They're gone because they didn't get, we didn't have this number of affordable housing units. We need, we all send our kids to college, and they're not the ones that are gonna be doing the clerical work, that some of these companies need. So they move to North Carolina where they can get that help. So all of these affordable housing units we're building is not just gonna equip school children. You have you have an aging population, that don't wanna cut grass, and shovel snow, and they sell their house and they wanna move into an apartment where someone else worries about maintaining everything. So it's not just gonna be low-income people. Once you retire and you're on fixed income, I know, I've been retired for 23 years now, okay? The cost of everything has gone up for 23 years, except my pension. So I'm almost in that boat too, where, I need someplace else to go. I wanna stay in this area, I wanna stay in Parsippany, but I gotta find something I can afford. So all these affordable units are not gonna be just low-income people.
Also, I seem to recall in 1515 that Lakeland Bus Lines was proposing that once it was built, that they would have a line going through there that would not just go to New York, but would also go along but eventually all along Route 46.
is that the if you build it, they will come scenario?
It sounds like it.
And the township has a free bus that runs all through town when these complexes are built and operational. The town would look to see what additional routes we would need to take to get everybody to shopping centers, in town.
I don't know if it's still running, but there was actually, Ridewise actually had, and New Jersey Transit were running a shuttle bus service from the business campus to the Morris Plains train station. And I'm not sure if it's still running though.
I don't know.
I would say highly unlikely if you drive back there during any day during the week. There's not a lot of cars anymore.
Yeah.
No, but we're in a position where we have to basically permit this or find it consistent.
Yeah.
Because of the court cases and whether we think there are going to be other problems. I've studied economics, and when there is a demand for something, eventually some form of supply shows up. And maybe not always exactly what you want, sometimes exactly what you want.
So, there were other properties identified when we had the affordable housing plan laid out. This was not one of them, though. So there are other property options available if they seek them out. I'm sure the courts are flexible in allowing us to find an appropriate replacement when somebody pulls out. This doesn't have to be the only one. I'm not aware that we're being forced into this yet.
I'm trying to figure out how that would actually work. Where is the town gonna find the properties and decide this property versus that? I mean, you've got owners of the property either decide that, hey, this works for me.
But in the same way that our original properties were proposed, you put it out, you create a open bid, and all the property owners that have something that they think would work to satisfy that need can propose something. We don't have to just take the one that comes up without an open process.
Well, should you succeed tomorrow, you can propose that some mechanism of that sort be passed through the assembly, but I'm unaware of any such mechanism.
That's how we did it with the original process, is we invited all of the various developers with land available that was suitable for affordable housing, and the town selected which projects could be put together in order to meet our requirement. That's how I understood it. Am I incorrect about that? I'm asking our lawyer.
I know that, I believe that this property is part of the town's affordable housing settlement. And so
This property?
I'm,
This property wasn't developed,
Is that
wasn't part of
correct?
that.
I don't think it was initially a part of it, but another property
And it wasn't
was.
part of the supplemental either. There were supplemental properties that
No,
were
but
identified.
it is now, when we lost the Kmart, we had to replace those affordable housing.
But have all the other developers that were originally submitting for projects notified that, hey, we need more affordable
I'm trying
housing?
to figure out why you're opposing what appears to be a fairly logical place for this.
To be honest, it's the residential part that bothers me the most. It's tall, it's very close to the other residential property that's back there. It's in the back of otherwise industrial and warehouse projects. Just doesn't seem the right place for a residential property. That's the part that bothers me.
Well, having coached teams on those ball fields back there before,
I don't think they'll have access to the ball fields.
kids find ways.
There's not gonna be a lot of kids there either. I mean, for better or worse, I mean, it's gonna be one and two.
Actually, there's a little note in here about there's like a pathway going from the back of the parking lot.
Okay.
It's not a designated pathway, but there's a foot trail there.
Just the
That
same.
access should be maintained to those.
I
those
think
fields.
that our township as a whole wants to limit the number of children that are coming in because of the
Understood.
school issues that would be caused by that.
Unfortunately, every town in the state of New Jersey is dealing with the same thing. They've had their affordable housing
Yeah.
agreements that they've come to, and they're struggling with the same question.
Okay. And I understand that, but, this was not part of our affordable housing plan. I believe there's other mechanisms to satisfy that affordable housing plan. And I have a problem with the residential portion of this project. I would argue that it would cause more traffic issues to the area than are currently existing, which is against goal number 4. I'd argue that this is not preserving and protecting the character and density of the aesthetics, which is goal number 1. This is yet another densely populated multifamily housing, so that's against goal number 2. So, I mean, again, on all of those grounds, I mean, I've just listed 3 goals that, I feel like it's inconsistent with the master plan on.
Actually, given that it's taking over the Kmart, you're just taking it slightly, you're moving it from pocket A to pocket B, and I don't see the difference.
But wouldn't you say that the area where the Kmart was more capable of handling additional flow of traffic and other things?
No.
Than is this Route 10 zone?
No.
Okay.
No, you don't see Route 46 in the evening in rush hour.
Oh, I see it.
I do.
Okay, I think it's every bit as bad as Route 10 and Route 202, so, again,
Okay.
picking it out of one pocket, and putting it in another pocket,
Mhm.
both of which have all sorts of problems with them,
Yeah.
and I just don't,
Well, why isn't this zone just being split, in order to accommodate 2 completely different uses? I mean,
Well, it is. We're basically creating 2 different zones
It's
within
a-
this redevelopment plan.
yeah, so it's a multi-zone,
Yes.
multi-use kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
which
so
we
there's
saw
the
at
overall
1515.
tract, but it's got 2 separate parcels. The intention is to subdivide those parcels, and the one use is allowed on one parcel, the other on the other parcel.
So it will be,
It's split.
Subdivided.
So they will have, for access purposes, they'll have some, cross-access there
they'll
with
have to be
the driveways, but that they are separate zones,
okay.
essentially.
Councilman, you have...
Actually, I was gonna
Counselor.
bring your name up, but go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening again, Keith Laughlin, on behalf of the applicant. Just a couple things, and I know a lot of this, and I'll be real quick, but obviously, as we've spoken before, all the municipalities have a affordable housing obligation. This property will fulfill and replace the Route 46 by the Kmart, which was part of your plan.
Mhm.
And the reason why there's housing as part of this is, and I'll be real candid, is to make the project financially feasible for the owner of the property.
Assume as much,
Right,
yeah.
but we consider this a win-win for Parsippany because first of all, it brings a Lifetime Fitness, which is in demand and popular with the residents of this area. But number two, this is going to, once this is up and running, it's going to more than double the tax revenue that is currently generated on the property to Parsippany. And appreciate the thoughts about the affordable housing requirements in the state, not to get into that, but this is going to replace another part of your plan. And so for those reasons, the tax revenue and the lifetime, plus the housing is just going to be on the back part of it. We think it's going to be something where the residents of Parsippany can, hopefully will embrace this project, as opposed to just housing on the whole thing. So we were very sensitive to that. My firm is very much involved in Parsippany. Our office is here. We're trying to make sure that this town stays strong, and we think this is consistent with that. With regard to the fields in the back, we're maintaining the fields. I think we're also going to be planning some improvements as well, because we're not only environmental concerns, but we want to be good neighbors. And so the fields are going to be a component that we're going to maintain.
But you guys, but the town owns those fields though.
Yeah, I'm not saying we own them. I'm just saying there's no plans to do anything.
Oh, all right. Yeah, turf.
Interfere with them.
The turf there?
Gordon, you have,
So, I have a few concerns or things I want to discuss that are much lower level than what we're talking about. I don't see any sidewalk on the concept plan or in here on Sylvan Way. Sylvan Way is really heavily trafficked, and I don't even know how much worse it's gotten since the grocery store was built down it.
I think the issue
Wegmans.
there is the creek and,
So we're not going to protect pedestrians because of a creek?
and the regulations around what can be built there.
So, yeah, so we've been working with the DEP, and because there's all sorts of environmental concerns, including wetlands, up until a certain point, and I'm not an expert on it, it's my understanding that the front of the property is environmentally constrained to put any impervious, I believe sidewalk included, so therefore there's nothing proposed. We were very careful about, and we continue to work with them to show them the plans to make sure we're not doing anything that impinges on wetlands areas.
So if there's no sidewalk on Sylvan Way, I do not see how this could be consistent with our master plan. Our master plan calls for full mobility, not just for cars. And that, to me, take a lane away if you have to, if on Sylvan Way, or change the roadway, narrow it, do whatever you have to do. But putting residences on Sylvan Way without a sidewalk, to me, is a non-starter.
Would it be possible to just take away about 4 feet in the street by painting a line and have a dedicated walk or bicycle path on the street? Is that possible? As a general question, I don't know who should answer that.
Well, the other issue I had, I
Because
guess.
if you can't build a sidewalk because of the creek, how about just walking along the street?
Skywalk.
Was there a sidewalk there with the office buildings there?
There's not been a
There's not.
sidewalk in the office campus.
No, but I mean, how many people are in that Budget Avis building? I mean, there's probably hundreds.
This has been a concern, Ted, this has been a concern of mine personally in the Mack Cali Business Campus for some time. When it was developed as office space, people drove in and drove out. Nobody really anticipated the fact that everybody was walking at lunchtime. I worked there for a number of years, so did Mr. Canjiano. Yeah, I think he can sort of verify that, you're constantly having to watch out for people who are walking on the road. And anytime the discussion came up about sidewalks, the answer was, well, they put all the utility boxes where the sidewalk would go, so we can't put it in. But now you're making it more of a 24-hour usage area. And, people who work in office buildings, not having sidewalks, that's one thing. When they're walking, it's daylight. People who live in residences can be walking at any given time.
I'm just trying to figure out where they're gonna be walking to, because the only other thing that's on this road that they would be walking to would be its Wegmans.
So if I may suggest, and Mr. Meth, I think that's a good suggestion, perhaps those are issues that we could deal with during site plan, because this is not, you're not approving this tonight. We're just in one step in the process. And so I'd love the opportunity to have our engineers and also your engineers take a look and see if it's feasible.
Well, Mr. Laughlin, the answer is this. We have to decide whether this is consistent with our master plan.
I understand.
I am saying that it is not because of the lack of circulation for modes other than cars. I would also like to bring up parking.
So I just have one comment. In the process of reviewing this redevelopment plan, we're making a determination tonight whether this is consistent or inconsistent with the master plan, and then also making recommendations to the council. If you have something that you want to change, you can make a recommendation saying that that should be also included, so then they could take that into consideration as well.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that there's a recommendation for a parking requirement that's below RSIS. I'm curious how legally that could work.
Within a redevelopment plan, you can grant those exceptions.
We've done that sort of before, and it didn't end well.
Didn't end.
So I do think that if we do determine that it's consistent in everything except for a couple of areas where we'd like the council to reconsider, because that's what I'm hearing here.
Well, I will definitely be recommending that we comply with RSIS on parking for the residences, and that we require sidewalk along the frontage on Sylvan Way.
Would that be something that we could require out of site plan, or is that something we want to build into the zone?
This plan goes so far as to address sidewalk within the property. It addresses it in great detail. I think if we leave it out, we have compromised our ability to negotiate that as site plan.
Fair enough. I'm going to turn to our professionals and ask them, where do we go from here? And then also to the counselor who is representing the client.
You go first.
Yeah, well, I believe that all these issues can be addressed during site plan. I think right now we're just, doing a master plan consistency review. I think it is consistent. I've explained why we think that, or why there are environmental constraints on the property that prohibit some of the suggestions. I don't know if they're possible. They may be possible. I'm not an engineer. And so I think during site plan, your board engineer and your board professionals will have the opportunity to weigh in and see, if it is feasible to put in some of these requirements and these conditions. But I think that would be more appropriate for a site plan application, which will come back before your board.
But just along that note, it's the board's decision to say that you want this included in the redevelopment plan or not. That's up to you.
A couple comments, if you guys are all done.
I didn't have it after you had one other comment.
All right, I want to say thanks to Mr. Laughlin about the last one we talked about, which was 7 campus. We just determined it was an area needed redevelopment. He goes, look, this is going to be a warehouse. I feel like last time around, when we approved this to be an area redevelopment, we didn't know this was going to be the case. And I know, is there a way to require, when we approve area redevelopment, that they at least give us some idea, hey, here's what's going to go there, before we vote on it? Because honestly, I probably wouldn't have voted this as area redevelopment. I knew this was coming up. I probably wouldn't have. So, anyway, when the old building gets taken down, do we know what year that building was built? In other words, I'm worried about the safety of kids playing on the fields in Lake Parsippany Park. If it's the wind's blowing a certain way and there's asbestos blowing that way or other toxic things, I just want to know for sure if there's any.
I thought it was in the 80s.
So that was no lead paint back then in the 80s, right?
No.
There's nothing else? Okay. Just as long as it's not a sunny day in April and they're knocking things down, the wind's blowing directly that way. Maybe that day they don't knock it down. That's it.
I was just looking at this, and maybe I misread something, so a little clarification. The 6th-level height, is that going to be part of the residential structure or that other parking deck?
So there's 2 parking decks.
Yeah.
These sixth level is the Lifetime, so that's a separate.
Okay,
Parking,
that separate
yeah.
building would be
Yes.
this.
That's this one here.
Yeah,
This is for the Lifetime one.
and the parking in the other one
Would be.
would all be uniform to the residential building?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into site plan review. I don't apologize for that. It's not appropriate at this time, but, yeah.
Yeah, and my client, and it's a very good point, this is just a concept
Yeah.
plan. When we come back before the board for site plan, you will see fully developed renderings and the like, so.
Mhm.
I'm good.
All
One thing I
right.
wanted to mention too as well, I mean, we have a lot of things going on in this whole Sylvan Campus Drive area, and it seems to be very similar developers. I think we approved something a little further, I guess that would be west. About, there was, I think, 2 or 3 warehouses we determined not too long ago. I mean, maybe the people that are in this multifamily resident are gonna be working in this area. Maybe it is best to have sidewalks all around that entire,
Well, they can only do the sidewalk for their piece of property where the DEP will allow them to do
Yeah.
it, which is.
but if we got three apartment buildings on the other side on campus, we have the warehouse you just mentioned before, we have this one, and we have a couple more. I mean, maybe it makes sense that all these, companies get together and figure something out, and talk to the DEP, and talk about, more sidewalks, more ways, more bike lanes, whatever. I mean, something.
That was kind of the question that I had was, what, to the west and to the east, the top and bottom. So even if they were to put a sidewalk in there, is there a connecting sidewalk on the westbound side and the eastbound side?
You gotta start somewhere.
No, I get it. It's just, if it's just a sidewalk to nowhere, it's almost irrelevant.
Well, that's
That's what they keep saying, but then
Yeah.
none of them get done.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, start one.
you have to start someplace is the concept there. Almost every time we've demanded sidewalks, and we've always been doing that, okay? And the developer will say rightfully so, well, I'll put it on my property, but there's nothing else on either end, okay? And then we don't do it. And then the next one comes along and he says, well, there's nothing on each side, where's it gonna go? The answer to that is, you have to start someplace.
Yeah.
If you have it in one, then you will strive to continue it. But if you don't start from someplace, even if it goes nowhere now, but in this case, with that creek going the whole length of that front property, if they put a sidewalk near the street, the only way anyone in there can get to that sidewalk is either at the end where the 2 entrance and the exits are, on both extreme ends. They can't go any place in the middle because of the creek. It'll be very inconvenient to use that sidewalk.
Or put a footbridge in between it.
Nature walks.
Well, I believe the internal roadways already have to have sidewalk adjacent to them. So there's already connections that are gonna come with that. The other thing is that a sidewalk, even if it's only in front of one property, provides a refuge for pickup, drop-off, especially if you end up with a school bus that doesn't go into the complex.
Where's Jen feeling this here right now?
All right, that again is something we would discuss at site plan and look for a solution.
As far as the sidewalks and getting them done, as a bigger picture within the town, what I've seen done in some towns is that maybe sidewalk isn't going in now, but a contribution could be made to a fund for a later time to get them installed in a more, in a way that works. They go somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking what Gordon said, that there's a greater need for a better circulation plan of how people who may be dropped off by a school bus on the corner rather than in the property can safely walk in different places, how people who are in the property who want to get to 202 or to Burger King, or not Burger King, whatever it is now, Wendy's. Have a means for doing that, or getting to Wegmans, or frankly, as Mr. Von Aken knows, people walk around our neighborhood all the time. So, is this going to remain an internal walking pattern, or are people going to continue to walk throughout the entire campus. I mean, they're certainly going to be tempted to walk throughout the entire campus.
Maybe Lifetime wants them to use the treadmills.
Well, that's,
Well, I'll bring back again my original question. That entire campus was never designed for people to walk. There are no sidewalks anywhere in that entire campus. And why can't we, I don't know, just take away 4 feet of that street and have a dedicated, by painting, a dedicated walking or biking, lane, and that can go from one end to the other in the campus.
Mr. DePiero, I will also say that, I mean, as much as this campus was built without sidewalks, also every building in this campus, almost every building right now is being raised and rebuilt.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't it make sense that we may want to do the exact same with the transportation infrastructure? And I recognize you're only on council for another 2 months after the longest stint in our history.
46 years, 40 on the council, 6 on the school board.
What I might suggest is this isn't a problem that necessarily needs to be solved here, but rather just that I think there is a consensus that we recognize the need for a sidewalk and to be included in the zoning for this project. So, unless I'm describing anything wrong, I'm, happy to have somebody else speak up, but that's what I think that we've come to a consensus on.
I would rather have it in the rule book and then talk about relief if it's technically infeasible.
That's been my position on a lot of things.
Mr. Canjiano.
I just wanted to mention that regarding this, it's a great discussion. There are provisions within the wetland, the flood hazard area code. Granted, there's riparian zones, there could be flood zone, could be wetlands, but there typically are relief or provisions in those regulations for sidewalk, particularly if it's made of permeable materials. So I would, the discussion is fantastic, and we shouldn't just think that because the DEP says you can't, it should be considered and looked at closely,
And we will.
Yeah. And also there's, I think on Dryden, there's a county bus route that goes down, I think Sylvan, and I think there's a bus stop in the area of Dryden and Silver. So again, the idea of the sidewalk makes sense, and if you can get it on this property, possibly get it on 4 Sylvan or whereas, and you can get closer to that intersection. Also, a few years back, the township was looking into getting sidewalk installed along Sylvan from, I think, Dryden down toward the Wegmans. I know they were looking at that. But again, I think there's this push to try and get sidewalks in the area. There is some mass transit in the area as well. So that's my 2 cents.
And I found the specific text in Goal 4, which states safe and efficient pedestrian and bicycle circulation should be promoted and expanded throughout the township and incorporated into all new development or redevelopments. It's the verbatim text in Goal number 4.
I knew it was in there.
I'm gonna turn to our planner and to our attorney, is how do we go about making it clear that we believe that it's important that there be some sort of a sidewalk circulatory plan for this piece of property?
Specifically on Sylvan.
So the council directed the planning board to prepare this plan, correct?
Correct.
So we would have to make the amendments to the plan before we send them back to the council.
That's what the board would like to do.
Yeah.
We can certainly.
So then those amendments would then be presented at our next meeting or when they're ready, and then at that point, we could approve them to be presented to council. Okay.
Well, on this entire campus, we have the same discussion on all the roads, not just Silverway. Campus Drive could be included in that. All the interior roads in that entire campus should be addressed the same way.
Understood, but I don't think we can make this one redeveloper
No.
This redevelopment plan address the entire campus.
No,
So I'm not sure.
but I don't know how we
what the
tie them
mechanisms-
together. They should be considered some way to tie them together.
I think that would be something that the council would have to take on.
I mean, the master plan spells it out.
I mean, we are making the campus now a multi-use campus.
Yeah.
Through all of the redevelopment plans going on within it.
Right.
And to boot, we're adding more truck traffic through warehouses.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at any of the real estate sites that are out there right now, people are looking for walk score and bike scores so that they can identify places that are walkable.
May I make a suggestion, because we're up against pretty quick deadlines that are...
Sir, I think that's irrelevant. This is
No,
a
I'm-
board matter. Okay.
Again, I'm just, through the chair, I'm just,
I think
I'm not...
courtesy reasons.
Okay. You're the chairman.
Okay. If I may, we've heard you guys, and we're coming back before you for site plan. You're well within your power at that point to require it, but I think it would be, if I may, we would respectfully request that the process not be delayed for this reason, although it's very important. And again, you're going to have the opportunity when we come before you for site plan to put in place any requirements you want in terms of, a sidewalk or the like. But I'd hate to see the process delayed here, because like I said, we have very strict deadlines that we're approaching. But I do understand, and to the extent we, are going to come before you again, you're going to have the opportunity with your engineers and your own votes to make it a condition. But I ask respectfully that we continue the process and not delay it.
Well, towards that end, in terms of the discussion that I started, obviously, there's one simple fix in section 8.2.2 sidewalks. Just add item F, sidewalks shall be provided along the Sylvan frontage of the property. And then let technical feasibility or other solutions come up with a way to solve that.
Subject to DEP.
Well, everything, every approval is already subject to every other
So
government
just
agency.
add that sidewalks be required on Sylvan Way.
Yeah, just sidewalks be provided along Sylvan Way frontage. That solves the problem for this, and if it has to be worked out of site plan, it has to be worked out of site plan. And number two, take out, or for item number one, under the parking off-street, instead of saying it shall provide 1.6 spaces per dwelling unit, that it shall comply with RSIS. And if an exception to RSIS is warranted, that could be addressed in site plan.
And to add to that, the redevelopment plan, as the board reviews it for master plan compliance and any amendments that the board decides upon tonight, are also reviewed by the council, and the council can accept or reject.
Fair enough.
So it's up to them.
I'll accept.
So then are we suggesting that with the amendments that have been described here, that we would accept it at that point?
Yes.
That would be the resolution that we would have somebody move.
Yeah.
Is with those two amendments?
Two changes.
The sidewalk and the RSIS.
Yep. Are there any other comments by members of the board?
Yep.
Mr. Dedich?
Yeah, just more of a comment, yeah. I mean, listening, a couple of those comments about parking and sidewalks, so that's one. But in general, I am very pro to anything that would stimulate economy, right? So anything like that, or redevelopment or development, I'm always pro to that, so I would always support that. Having said that, right, and I was thinking, right, we could deal, as I think as Attorney was mentioning, we could deal some of these details during the site plan review. And again, if we made those conditions, I think we should be good to go with that. So I just want to give that my comment about being pro to some of these things.
Any other members have any comments or thoughts? Do I hear a motion? A member of the public would like to...
Can I make a suggestion?
If the, please come up to the, yes,
Yep.
There's no swearing.
just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Travellini, of Bedminster, New Jersey. I represent developer. What I thought, since I'm not really sure how a sidewalk in front of our little property in the context of the whole campus would solve a problem, but if the town would ever to have a master plan with respect to sidewalk circulation through Sylvan Way, Campus Drive, et cetera, we'd be happy to escrow money towards that end, rather than have to build it now. If there's some macro master plan solution to circulation throughout the campus, I think participating and paying our fair share to develop such a corridor, pedestrian corridor, could be helpful. I've seen it done with an escrow in the past. If you go ahead and move forward with it, we're all in. But I'm not sure how putting a sidewalk in front of our little property in the context of the 20 or so that are on
As
campus
has
will
been
solve the problem.
suggested, this could be approached at site plan.
Yes.
If what we may do in order for this to get through the board tonight is we're going to put in these amendments suggesting, one, that RSIS parking is going to be required, and two, that there be some sort of sidewalk in the front of it. When we get to site plan, it's conceivable that you could come before us and say, here's why we can't do it, here's why it works better if we put some sort of escrow, and then the board will decide if they think that that's the appropriate way to move forward.
Okay, I'm just offering that
No,
as a suggestion. That might be without a master plan, I'm not sure what we solve right now, but however you want to proceed.
Technically, it is in the master plan that we have the sidewalks there. We just haven't always found a way to enforce it.
Okay.
And with regard to RSIS, just because we're saying the parking has to be RSIS, RSIS has a mechanism where you can provide exceptions with proof that you can use less parking. So to the extent that there could be less parking, that could still come into play, but if we're consistent with RSIS, there's a process within RSIS for asking for less.
Yeah, I'm not sure what those arguments would be on
They would be
on the multifamily component.
That would be a qualified professional coming and demonstrating what the real parking need would be.
Of course.
If you have ARC housing in your multifamily apartment building, you may be able to prove that these beds don't need parking spaces.
Yeah, I'm assuming the co-developers got answers to those questions.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Makes sense? Sure. Thank you. All right. Do I have, is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak on this topic, on this application? Counselor, do you have anything further?
No, and I thank the board for your patience and consideration.
All right. This closes the evidentiary portion of tonight's hearing. I would like to have somebody make a motion. Mr. Von Aken, you have a...
Yes, despite all my objections, I think we've covered this sufficiently, and I would like to make the motion that we find that this project is not inconsistent with the master plan.
All right.
With the given amendments that we discussed in the meeting for the record.
Two conditions, right? Yeah, parking and sidewalk.
Yes, the parking and the sidewalk.
Second, yeah.
Second, Mr. Dedich. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Dedich.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
Neely.
Yes.
Neff.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Danziel.
Yes.
Von Aiken.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes.
I scare you there a little. Thank you.
No, I was just trying to figure out how we got out of it. Are there any other items that need to come before this board at this time?
No.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? There's a nice, well, we won't go there.
Tom, I'm sorry if I overstepped that at any point during that conversation.
It had to be said.
Okay.
And these boards aren't meant to be monolithic in nature.
Thursday.
I don't have any.
plans
Thank
or
you.
studies on my desk right now, so.
Sounds fair. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a little different.
Oh, the
than
master
taking
plan?
the
That's his.
council
This is
creates
available on the
plan.
town's website. You can put an arrow or.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Okay.
No, 2000.
I think that might be a draft version. It was, yeah. The official one was approved in 2020.
Yeah. It's online, and I know that, you know, you're doing research for a future application, that you may be opposed to. Yeah, no. The concern
Tough to get in and
about
out of this thing.
reviewing the master plan, consistency is really good. Like reviewing that document. For the map, because the board's actions are supposed to follow the master plan. There you go.
It's kind of like a charter, what we're required to adhere to.
Yeah. Of course, it should be revised at some point.
And the master plan is a living,
Revisit every 10 years, by statute.
the master plan is a living document. It changes with the needs.
And unfortunately, the community needs of our community changed since this thing was produced.
All COVID happened, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay, good night all.